Hey, I made a 20-minute long video about my favorite games of 2017. You're actually watching it right now. It would be weird if you didn't realize that. You're watching a YouTube video, and then I know you just moved your mouse to make sure that you heard me correctly. Yes, it is 20 minutes long. It was a very good year for video games. I needed the time, but I do know that it was a very bad year for being alive otherwise. So I took this opportunity to talk about the things that I actually enjoyed. But there are a bunch of games that came out this year that I missed, including Nier Automata, Horizon Zero Dawn, Prey, and literally any PC game that people liked, because I don't have a PC, so those aren't on the list. A few bits of housekeeping before we go. First off is that this video does contain spoilers, and I've done my best to give you enough time during each game's title screen to hop off if you need to, but don't, I need the views. Also, here's a content warning for the stuff that is in here. There's blood, guns, and gore. There's a rated M game in here, so just keep that in mind. Okay, before we actually get into the top 5, I'm gonna go through 2 honorable mentions, and yeah, I think that's it. Y'all ready? Because I am. I already made the video. I'm recording this way after. Here we go. The first honorable mention on my 2017 Game of the Year list is Cuphead. Man, fuck Cuphead, dude. Like, Corn Guy sucks, Candy Lady sucks, these 2 frog dudes, they suck, the Genie dude, he sucks. Every single boss in this game sucks because they're too hard to beat because I am bad at video games. But I love this video game because it oozes character in a way that is unparalleled. Rooted in the animation stylings of the 1930s, Cuphead is a visual masterpiece that, when paired with extremely tight controls, results in the only hard-on-purpose shoot-'em-up that I've ever played and actively enjoyed. I haven't beaten it yet, but I've played through a good chunk of this game cooperatively with my roommate, and Cuphead nights were among my favorite nights of the year. Cuphead is a good thing. Fuck the bird boss, though. He sucks. God. Y'all ever heard of Destiny? It came out in 2014 and was like Halo and made by the people who made Halo, but this time it was in space and there was magic and stuff. It was okay. I put just a little bit of time into it. It's no big deal. Anyway, they made another one. This time they called it, let me see what they call it. Destiny 2. This one's like Halo, but in space, and there's magic and stuff. I was really hot on Destiny 2 at launch, and I powered through it. I have a whole video idea and script sitting in Celtics right now that I wrote up about one of the songs in the game. That's how much I've thought about it. But then I realized that I went about a month without hopping in. The loop that kept me invested in Destiny 1 and led me to living 15 days of my human life in a burnt-out version of our solar system wasn't as sticky this time around. But the tweaks that were made led to me giving a bit of a shit about the story in Destiny, which I didn't think was possible. The visual aesthetic of this game is still entirely up my alley, with the tiniest stuff like the emblems just making me happy when I look at them. So many quality of life changes were made too. You can fly from planet to planet without going to orbit first. The disparate weekly tasks from the first game have been wrapped up neatly into a set of manageable milestones. There are legitimately good reasons to be in a clan. It also, in the beta, gave me one of my favorite gaming moments of the whole year. And the music, this song, it's just so good. I haven't beaten the raid yet, and I actually don't know if I will, and I still think the Crucible is iffy, but Bungie, for your sake and for my own personal selfishness, I hope y'all figure out what direction y'all are trying to get this game in. I want to play more of it. There is something here. We can all see it. It's undeniable. What Remains of Edith Finch? This game, holy gosh. If you have a PC or a PlayStation or an Xbox, you need to go buy and play this game immediately, because I don't know how anything I could say here could really do the work that Giant Sparrow did any justice. What Remains of Edith Finch is a collection of short stories about a family and the tragedies they've endured. As you poke your way through this bizarre, labyrinthine house, you become an active participant in these stories, seeing what the subjects saw, feeling what they felt. Deftly written, this game shines behind great vocal performances led by Valerie Rose Lohman as Edith. And the stories, they play with genre, moving from comedy to horror to sci-fi to tragedy, all the while keeping the vibe consistent. Each of the stories that Edith uncovers feels right and contextualizes the characters as family members with joy and heartache that isn't foreign to anyone, no matter how alien the things happening to them may seem. I quickly found myself just as lost in the house as Edith was, just as determined to find what she was looking for as she was. Because, well, I'll just let Edith tell you.
And when you look at the house, it had that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness. Any of it seems possible.
So, imagine, if you will, a possibility. An America that has been taken over by the most villainous of individuals, the racists, the sexists, the obdurate, the supremacists. Firm believers in the idea that the poor and less fortunate are not either of those things because of hundreds of years of oppression or systemic roadblocks preventing their mobility, but because they're bad at existing, that they deserve to suffer. An America filled with hate and, oh shit. Oh my god. Oh no. I guess some of the stuff in Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, wasn't that much of a reach then. Now, I actually don't think that Wolfenstein 2 is that good of a shooter. Honestly, I felt the same way about the first game. There are so many areas that are visually confusing, combat arenas that are poorly structured, and instances of gunplay that I just think feel bad. Put together, those things make the game sound average from a gameplay perspective. Why is it on my list then? It's because in 2017, it's extremely satisfying and feels very good to shoot some fucking Nazis. But the thing that moves The New Colossus past being a game about just shooting Nazis and into something that I think is truly special is how logical the world's progression is. The story goes some wild, pulpy places. It sends you to Venus to audition for a film, for example, and features a few head transplants, but the path there somehow makes sense. It wouldn't be surprising that if one of America's major cities were to endure a nuclear blast that the government would surrender. It wouldn't be surprising that if those attackers happen to view non-whites and religious minorities as a plague on society, that people in the US who already sympathize with those views would have no problem adding a little something to their robes. Machine Games tactfully frames the undercurrents running through mid-century America in a way that is just as much of a window into an alternate time as it is a mirror for today. The New Colossus has a firm grasp on its characters, continuing to add depth and richness to a protagonist that should be the most boring man in video games by not shying away from the humanity that exists around him. Revolutions are not easy, especially when going up against an opponent as entrenched as a globally empowered regime. And stories about revolution are at their most interesting when the rebellion faces conflict, when our heroes struggle, and when they make choices that we may not believe are in character, but are still decidedly human. It's because at the end of the day, these stories, they're about people. It just so happens that they can broad jump 20 feet and occasionally control people with their minds.
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or PUBG as it's also known, is third on my list is nonsensical. I do not like games like PUBG. I never have. I don't really like survival games that aren't called Minecraft. And I was under the impression that any amount of love that I had for the concept of a purely competitive shooter died the second I walked off of the Activision QA floor. I've only actually logged 13 hours in the game. That is nothing. That's like 15 rounds max. I shouldn't love this game, but I do. Every once in a while comes a game that's kind of like PUBG, whether it's in gameplay conceit like H1Z1 or The Culling, or in popularity on YouTube like H1Z1 or The Culling. But there hasn't been anything that has stuck in the community's collective consciousness quite like this one. The concept is extremely simple. There are 100 people, they all jump out of a plane and onto a huge map. You have to be the last person or team standing, that's it. You can iterate on pre-existing ideas and create games like PUBG, but you can't create the emergent storytelling that happens on top of it. Watching the organic growth and creation that this game spurred made me understand Twitch and watching people play games online in a way that I never truly understood. I spent the better part of this year watching Waypoint's Austin Crowbar Walker and Patrick Sickle Klepek get spicy at school every morning on their Breakfast and Battleground series. I laughed along with the wonderful boys and girls over at Polygon as they ran from Josh whilst being serenaded by Justin McElroy on Awful Squad. I rode the roller coaster that was Giant Bomb's Murder Island and survived. I probably watched more of this game than I will ever end up playing. My familiarity with the game's first map ingrained so deep within my brain that I surprised even myself when I loaded it up for the first time on the Xbox. PUBG is not perfect. The Xbox version especially so. I'd go so far as to say that it is a bad, broken version of the game. But I will keep playing it, and I will keep loving it. Because the mixture of highs, lows, pops, and lulls that can happen in any given round of PUBG, whether you're watching or playing, is worth an infinite number of chicken dinners. In this Mario game, they give Mario a gun. Wait, no, wait, hold on, sorry, it's wrong game, hold on, wait. In this Mario game, they turn Mario into a gun. Super Mario Odyssey! And a fireball, and a human man, and 50 other absolutely wild entities that Mario has no business being. Super Mario Odyssey is an explosion of creativity that results in the most imaginative Mario game ever. Jumping from kingdom to kingdom, dressing Mario up in the most appropriate or inappropriate attire, and diving headfirst into meticulously crafted worlds has been such a delight. More so than any other 3D Mario game, Odyssey feels like a puzzle box. There are 880 puzzles of various sizes in this game, the terms defined but the solutions masterfully abstracted. Whether I strung a handful of jumps together after leaping off of a skyscraper in New Donk City to grab a moon that probably had a puzzle attached to it, or I tossed my hat at a cactus in the Sand Kingdom like an idiot, and then turned into that cactus, the game actively rewarded my playing in this space. Even on a systems level, the game feels like it is paced with the Switch's portability in mind. It is just as well suited for a 30-minute long bus commute as it is for a 5-hour marathon in front of the TV. There are moons everywhere, the game encouraging you to both skim from the top and dive deep. Odyssey features my favorite looking world in a Mario game, some of the series' best music, the best looking version of the world's most famous plumber and his friends, and the tightest controls and game feel the series has ever seen. You can also play fetch with a dog that's very cute. It cashes in on every last drop of nostalgia that you may have for the series, with some callbacks sending the game places that I never thought a Mario game could or would ever go. If this was the last entry in this series, I wouldn't even be mad. Super Mario Odyssey is the best Mario game ever made. At its best, it is one of the best games Nintendo has ever made, and at its worst, it will go down as one of the greatest games of the generation. But it's facing some tough competition. I've been playing video games since I was 4, and I've caught myself with those, those joyous butterflies in your stomach. That's happened to me maybe twice. The first time was when I booted up Pokemon Omega Ruby, and I saw how Game Freak had transformed the introduction to my first and favorite Pokemon game. The second time was when I saw this for the first time. The metaphor baked within the opening sequence of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is not that tough of a nut to crack. The presentation of the breadth of the wilds in the distance is as much of a message to the player as it is to Link. Hyrule has changed. From the jump, it completely upends your preconceived notions of what the words Legend of Zelda mean. The on-rails narrative path that the series was known for is nowhere to be seen. The foundation now built upon freeform exploration and experimentation, and the combat so dramatically changed that I actually think that this game is hard. When I reviewed it, I said that Breath of the Wild reminded me of a time when I was bad at video games. I didn't understand lots of genre-specific tropes. I failed to efficiently read patterns when watching AI move around or while trying to solve puzzles. As I got older though, as I played more, I mastered those idiosyncrasies. And after years of playing open world games, I thought that I understood what they could be. Breath of the Wild showed me that I didn't. It represents a mastery of systems, and figuring out how they interact with each other requires a completely new way of thinking, one that is freed from the contrivances of the genre. If you see a mountain you want to climb, you can climb it. One step further back, if you think you can do it in this game, you probably can. And the shrines, oh my goodness, a handful of the shrines drove me to taking notes. I was trying to mind palace my way through them at work or on the bus until I solved them. I haven't done anything like that in over a decade. The reason I felt like I was bad at video games is because this one was changing the way I thought about them. In a lot of ways, Breath of the Wild is like Super Mario Odyssey. They're both staggeringly deep games that each present a bunch of ideas. But while Odyssey is largely representative of a distillation of what makes Mario great, Breath of the Wild is a manifestation of what makes video games great, simultaneously a love letter to the medium and a lighthouse in the distance guiding where it goes next. I don't know if we deserved Breath of the Wild in 2017, but I'm so happy we got it.